Plugins, right. So, plugins, I'm going to the Contact Us page on this particular site, and it's going to load 2 bits of information. Now, on this particular site, we're using a plugin for our contact form and a plugin for this Google map down here. So, on this particular site, we've actually loaded the Contact Us article, but within the article we make reference to 2 plugins. One calls the contact form and one calls the map. And so just to explain what I'm talking about, if I go back to the control panel, we go to Article Manager, and then we find the Contact Us page, which is what we were looking at a moment ago. It will then load the content for the Contact Us page. Now you'll see we've got telephone, address and email, just as we have here on the front end. So telephone, address and then email. And then we have the form. Now the way that I refer to the form in this example is by calling a particular plugin for a component called for seal forms. The way that we then link to, show the map, the Google map below that, is we make reference to something called Moss Map. Now I'm only able to make reference to these particular features by having plugins already installed. So I'm just going to close this article. Now the way that you get to your plugins is extensions at the top here and then go to plugin manager. Now by going to plugin manager we can see a list of number of plugins that are installed on this particular website. Now the good thing about plugins is they extend the functionality once again of your site. You can have plugins for content like we've got here on the Contact Us page, so we're calling a contact form and a Google map into an article page, or you can have plugins to perform a number of other options. So the key thing is, if you have plugins available in your website, the best way to find out how to use them is to go to plugin manager and then you go to find the plugin you'd like to use. So for instance this form is the Breezing Forms, the one where we've got the form loaded, and generally the plugins have a description tab, and then in the description tab if we were to read that it gives us reference of how to use a given plugin on an article page. So we're just going to close this one and we're going to head back to control panel. Just head back to a presentation. Right, so I think this is one of the final parts to this training session. Backing up. Now I'm just going to go to components at the top here, and we've got this particular component for Joomla 1.5 called the Kiba backup. Now with any website it's very important that you make regular backups of your content, your images and so on, just so that if anything ever happens to your site you've always got an archive. Some of the top websites online have multiple servers where they have backups running every day, but if you've not got a dedicated server with automatic backups and you're running your website on some form of shared hosting, it's always a good idea to make sure that you can take backups of your own, just so you've got peace of mind. I particularly use 2 components for Joomla websites. I use Joomla Pack, which is now been superseded by Akiba. So it was called Joomla Pack, it's now called Akiba. Once you've got this component installed, you go to components at the top and you just click on Akiba Backup. Now with this particular component, once it loads, it will give you a number of options. Now for me there's only one real option that you need to look at, which is backup now. So you'd simply click on backup now. You'd type in a comment if you wanted to. It could be June backup 2011, so that could be your comment, and then you simply click backup now. Now if I click that, it will then start to load a number of settings that it has to progress through to complete the backup. So you'll see there, and we've got the progress bar here, 25% backing up the database. So we'll let that run, then it will back up a number of the files, and then once it's finished we should have 5 ticks over here. So we'll just let that run. Almost finished. Come on. Right, we'll just jump back into the presentation. So, as I mentioned, make sure that you take regular backups, and we've got our backup running in the background at the moment. But the key thing is, once you've got your backup, you can then download a copy of that backup file, which you can then keep on your laptop or computer as an archive. And with this backup file, what can you do? Well, what you can do is, if your site's relatively big, not too big, you can then, or you're then in a position whereby you could probably reload a full site within the space of an hour. I've had some bigger sites in the past where it's taken me approximately 4 hours, and that's purely down to the size of actually downloading that site. They've had thousands of articles with images, videos, and so on. And the power of the backup file is that with that we were then able to move a site in a matter of hours, as opposed to having to reinstall everything again and publishing all of your content on there. So it's a great way to port your site onto different servers, or in the worst case, if your site has been hacked or taken down for whatever reason. I've had that happen in the past, to different sites. It's a great way to make sure that at least you've got the latest backup, peace of mind, and you can be online within an hour to however big your website is. But generally it takes an hour to get back online. Right, to get to the actual file, you then click on administer backup files. Once your backup's successfully completed, you'd find the latest backup as we've got here, and if I go along where we've got the link, if I click on that, we can then download this particular file. So if you just go back to Sites Control Panel, I'll leave the downloading of the backup files to you to try and test out. So we're just heading back to the presentation, and there we are. I'm just going to go back. So just to summarize, we've gone through understanding the setup of Joomla and how to get into your administrator area, the control panel, sections, categories, articles, and menus. We've then looked at articles in particular with adding images and uploading images. Also best practice, keeping your images to around about 600 pixels in width unless you need them bigger. Looking at menu manager and how we link to articles and categories. And components, what are they for? Modules, knowing what they are and how they work with your template. And then plugins, using them to extend the features of your web pages on Joomla, and then backing up. Now, final point, Joomla CMS is all about managing and controlling content, and for any website, make sure that you have fresh content and that you're updating it regularly. That's the whole point of a CMS. It's there. Make sure you use the power, and thank you for listening today. That's Joomla 1.5 training. Just a quick whistle-stop tour with myself, Leon Street. If you'd like to find out more about me, search for me on Google. You'll find my sites, and I'll speak to you soon.